Hello, this is Dr. Hart, and we'll be going over the rubric for the final project. So you can read through that after clicking on Unit Module 7. The rubric, a link to the rubric is there. And we're going right for the jugular here, which will cover milestones 1 and 2. The prompts are bolded here, and I have a template that I will send out that has these prompts in the order that they can be reported on. So the first prompt is about purpose of the paper you select. There will be a list of 3 articles that you'll choose from that are approved for the milestones and ultimately the final project, which is built on milestone 1 and 2. So you start out a little easy in milestone 1 and pick up speed in milestone 2 and cross the finish line with the final project. The purpose prompt also has these sub-prompts, shall we call them. The research question in the study should be in the form of a question, a specific question. Hypothesis is different than the purpose of the study. Hypothesis is what is accepted, and it's more of a statement, like a healthy diet is important for good health. Purpose of the study, back over here, is the researchers sought to analyze the relationship between diet and health. Under research methods, the first item is study design, experimental. A clue for that is if the patients are randomized into different groups, for example. So randomization is key, is a key sign that it's experimental. If you do not see that under the methods section in the paper, then it's most likely an observational study. Also known as real-world research. For example, intensive care patients, a study on that, looking back at records. We would not randomize those gravely ill patients into treatment groups. The doctor makes a thoughtful diagnosis and treatment. It has to be that way to be ethical healthcare. Methods of data collection. How did they gather their information? Survey, or did they measure if it's on blood pressure, a blood pressure cuff on the arm? And don't forget this part of the prompt. So read the whole prompt. Do you think that the method of data collection is appropriate? So address that. That's a common one that is missed. Data type, quantitative or categorical. Could be both. Quantitative, example of that, blood pressure readings. So quantitative means that there is a lot of possibilities in the numbers, as opposed to 1 is yes, 2 is no. Not many possibilities there. That would be categorical. Another example of categorical, color of eyes, race, weight, overweight, underweight, average weight. Weakness of data collection. Data analysis, often confused with data collection. Going back to data collection, they are 2 different things. just went over data collection, data analysis methods, example of that, calculating averages, percents, making graphs of the data, presenting those charts in the paper, statistical tests. Wilcoxon is a name of a inferential statistic tests like t-tests, correlation, regression. Those are methods, not how the data was collected. Survey is not analysis. Measuring blood pressure is not analysis. Those are data collection methods. Calculating averages of the blood pressure, that is an example of analysis. And here again, over here, we see, are the methods appropriate? Be sure to address that. Weaknesses of data analysis. Careful not to go back to data collection. Stick with data analysis. What's the weakness? If we only see averages, for example, we're missing some other information like how spread out the data is, reflected in a standard deviation test. Key demographics of the population. What are the groups? Did the study report age, race, gender? Key findings, results, and whether the results are statistically significant, indicated only by a p-value. Look for a p-value under results section. Nothing else determines statistical significance. So if you say it's statistically significant because they found some important information or relationship between health and diet, that's not statistical significance. It's an important finding, but it does not tell us about statistical significance, only the p-value. This is arguably the most important part of statistics, and it's, I find, one of the most neglected items. Either it's not understood or not sure why. But look for that p-value and read my module announcements. When we get to those modules, like module 5, I go into statistical significance a little deeper. The p-value less than 0.05 is said to be statistically significant. That means the finding, for example, if we're comparing male and female blood pressures, probably did not happen by chance if the p-value is less than 0.05. Difference between groups. Just gave an example there, blood pressure between male and female, and then you can state what that difference is. Limitations of the study. In the subcategory here, study population. Is there a weakness there? Did they focus only on one group, which often happens in research? So that would be a limitation. If we studied only high school students, then that would not include older people, typically. And so that would be a limitation. The findings of a study on only high school students be hard to generalize to the elderly. Sample size, was it large enough in your estimation? A sample size of 30 is a pretty good start. Sample size of 10, that's kind of small. And advantages of the analysis he used, so you can go back to analysis on that. Limitations of study design. If it's experimental, where they randomize, that's not really real-world research. If it's observational, where it is real-world research, it's not randomized. Randomization has its advantages, and observational has its advantages, and they both have their limitations. Major conclusions from the study. Here in this section, you will compare to a study that's in the reference list at the end of the paper and the paper you selected, one of the three out of that list that you selected. That's the sub-prompt here, and how this paper that you select contributes to the scientific literature. And how is it similar to what's already there, or is it different in the design? Do the findings tend to agree with what's already out there? Further investigations. Maybe you think the sample size should be larger in further investigations, or should look at another group like elderly, in the example of high school children, high school students only. Expand it maybe to the elderly or to college age, whatever you think. So milestone 1 will just look at purpose and research methods, so just these first couple here. Then milestone 2 will look at methods of analysis and key findings. And then you'll finish it off with the final submission. So let me know if you have questions by posting the questions under the general questions thread in the discussion area. And thank you for watching.